We are at the midway point of the Challenge All Stars Season 2, talking episode 5. Another good episode of the season for me. Honestly, just having storylines, story arcs, and some character arcs has just been a breath of fresh air because Big Brother and Survivor gives none of that this year. They gave none of that. There was no real story arcs, maybe one real story arc for Big Brother, one real story arc for Survivor, and not a whole lot of character arcs because neither of the both of those shows don't know how to edit anymore, apparently. So it's just good to have a show actually be able to edit. It's great, honestly. For me, having to continue to watch Survivor, I'm so glad it's almost over on Wednesdays. The next day, being able to watch the Challenge All Stars is a breath of fresh air. Honestly, Survivor is like you eat at a garbage place, like you eat some Taco Bell or something, and that shit keeps you up all night. And then the next morning, you feel relieved because that shit's over and you can watch the challenge. That's how I feel Survivor compared to the Challenge All Stars this season. And it's becoming a thing that I talk a lot about on this channel because that's just how I feel. And it's just truth. It's the truth. Why does pro wrestling suck these days? Because there's no real storylines, there's no real characters. Everything blends together into one blah fucking giant ball. That's why pro wrestling currently sucks. Why are some soap operas better than others? Because some actually have character driven stories or at least entertaining plot driven stories, and others have a whole bunch of nothing going on. So, television, what makes good television will always be storylines or character arcs, preferably both. Anyway, let's talk about episode 5. The big story was the King's Palace alliance, which consists of Tech, Alti, Nehemiah, and I believe Casey and Ayana in there as well. And then Steve, they were trying to bring in Steve because they all share a room. That good old we share a room alliance. I don't know why those happen so often, but they do. So that alliance was a big part of this episode. And the individual challenges called the bounce back, where you're basically going to bounce up these giant stairs and then knock something off the top. And it hurt some of the women. Casey gave up, and Melinda got hurt, and Jasmine got a little hurt, but Jasmine continued. Um, but Melinda had one less attempt than Casey, which is why she was the loser for the girls in this round. Meanwhile, Steve broke the rules, tried to knock off two boobies on top at the same time, which was against the rules. So it would be Steve and Melinda going into the elimination because they were the losers. Meanwhile, Darrell and Jody won the challenge, so they would have to do the nominations in this round. Now, Jody was feeling, since her basically only ally, Derek, went home last week, she's been feeling like she doesn't have an alliance. So Darrell and Brad tried to take her into their little power alliance that they were trying to have with Derek in the first place. They want to work with Jody, but I found Jody really dumb in this episode. I did. Like, obviously, she's great at challenges. That's her strong suit. But, strategizing and social gaming, she's really bad at it because Darrell basically talked Jody into nominating Ayana so that Ayana would use her power shield and on herself and not on Tech because they wanted to get in Tech to try to put Tech against Steve because they're in the same alliance. That's smart, and that's good on Darrell's part. That's good on Brad's part, but on Jody's part, it's kind of dumb to go along with that. Now, Jody had this tunnel vision that she needed to get Tina out of the game, and it definitely was tunnel vision. She wanted like revenge because Tina put her up. That's been one of the story threads in this season. So Jody wanted to return the favor and put Tina up. So yeah, it makes sense. But I feel like because she wanted that so much, she went along with this plan, which puts her against Ayana, which this season I don't think you want to do. You don't want to be in elimination with Ayana. So if Ion ever wants Jody in elimination, now do I think Jody could be Ion in an elimination? Yes, I do. It would be a good elimination to see those two go against each other. But I just don't understand how Jody managed to make this game harder for herself. Jody is making this game harder for herself. She had tunnel vision with the rivalry with Tina. And yes, she got Tina out in this episode because Tina gave up at the end, unfortunately. But she just gained a new rival. And I think that makes you a bad game player, personally. But it might not be all bad altogether. Now, because the King's Palace, I believe, is the name of the alliance, is kind of making themselves known a little too much, which isn't the best thing in a game like this because there's still a lot of people left and there's only 5 people in this alliance, so it's pretty bold. I talked about last week how it might be a split house, but probably not really because I think there's a lot of different factions going on. But if this alliance is making themselves seem like the main alliance, you would think people would want to take shots at that main alliance. This isn't the regular challenge, like the current season of the challenge. Even though I'm not watching, I read spoilers before the season. And the reason I'm not watching is because nobody played the game smart and just let an alliance of vets dominate the season. That's just boring. That shit, it's just bad gameplay. So I don't think the seasoned players are going to allow this alliance to make themselves so known and keep on going. Now, what I did like, Steve wanted Tech instead of Tyler, even though they tried to bring in Steve in the alliance. Tech was one of the people that wanted to bring Steve in the alliance, but then Steve would rather face Tech because he's the skinny guy rather than go against Tyler. But in the end, Tech defeats Steve, finally wins the elimination. Tech's been bringing it in elimination since All Stars began. Last season, he gave Nehemiah a run for his money, and this season he beat Steve. So Tech's shown he got some skills for the challenge these days, which is good to see because I do enjoy Tech. How can you not enjoy Tech? He's very entertaining. Now, Tina was getting upset. Tina did not want to become mad Tina. She was trying to be nice Tina, but she didn't like what she was becoming in the house, and she kind of gave up. She didn't even try in that elimination against Melinda, which was disappointing because I felt like that would have been a much more entertaining story thread as Tina staying in the house, along with Tech staying in the house. Those two remaining make for better television. It's just true. At least Tech remains, but Tina doesn't. And, Tina obviously has shown growth as a person. She's not young anymore. She's older Tina, and she has shown growth, but it's still disappointing on an entertainment level. Selfishly, I would have liked to have seen not so nice Tina remain in the game and play the game, but that was not the case. So Melinda remains, and that is where we are going into this next episode. The King's Palace Alliance seems to be getting a little cocky. There's really only 5 of them right now from what we've seen, and there's still a lot of people left in the game. There has to be, I haven't done the math. I don't actually know how many people are remaining. I am assuming it is roughly still at least 16 people are left, if not more. So, yeah, 5 versus 11, not smart. So I feel like King's Palace is going to be targeted if they don't win challenges, or if they do win challenges, then they can stay in power if they try hard. So it's very interesting, though. I do enjoy the dynamics of the season a lot. I like that there are several different factions that we've seen in these first 5 episodes. And there's a lot of players that they're not getting a lot of screen time, but clearly have a good social game. So I hope more is seen with them. But overall, another episode I enjoyed. I'm enjoying the story threads. We're halfway through the season, and I think it has set itself up very nicely going into these last 5 episodes of the Challenge All Stars 2.